welcome to another episode here of Africans Talk Football TV. Joined again by my lovely hosts, Gabriel, Salam, and Mike. And we actually have another Mike on with us here today. We'll get into that in a little moment. But how's everyone feeling tonight, honestly?
Good, man.
Salam, big Monday for you. So, we'll get into that a little bit later.
Big Monday, Man United got the dub today.
We'll get into that a little bit later, but first and foremost, we want to introduce our guest here, Michael Parkhurst, former MLS player, former U.S. national team player, former Champions League player. His resume is actually huge. I want to hand it off to Salam because Salam, you reached out and you guys have been in contact, so I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, again, Michael, thank you again for hopping on, man. We really appreciate your time. We're very privileged to be talking to someone with such a decorated career. I mean, individually and as, a part of a team, you've accomplished a lot and, you've made us, American football fans, very proud. So, yeah, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, thanks for having me on. The game of football was good to me. I really enjoyed it, and I'm still part of it. But playing aspect was very good to me. Got to travel the world and have some awesome experiences and playing some big games and things like that. But so I always love talking footy. So it's good to be here.
Good, man. So just wanted to start off just like early on. You went to Wake Forest, played 2 years there from 2002 to 2004, and then got drafted by the Revolution, selected 9th overall in the first round in 2005 to the Revolution. So talk to us about like that transition from college to the pros. Like, what was that transition like? And, when did you feel like, I belong, I'm ready, like, I can play at this level?
Yeah, those transitions are difficult, right? And I do some mentoring right now, and it's one of the things I've talked to a lot my mentees about is, a lot of guys that have success are usually one of the better players on their team growing up, right? And then all of a sudden you get to high school and you play against kids that are older and you might not be starter anymore. And then you get to college if you're lucky enough and you might not be a starter. You might not even play much your first year or two. And then, each step is just bigger and bigger. And the step between college and pro was pretty big. I went to a great school at Wake Forest, and we had a very good team. We played in a good conference and everything. But even the step from there to professional was pretty large. I was fortunate enough that I landed in a really, really good spot because I was just surrounded by very, very good teammates. And that really helped me in my first year. They weren't expecting me to play right away, but the center back that was in front of me retired in preseason, and then they brought in about 5 center backs on trial my rookie year, and by my luck and how I was playing, I guess none of them happened to be better than me. And so I think they were kind of stuck with me on day one, and they weren't sure how I was going to do, but it worked out. But I mean, that being said, no trajectory is just perfectly linear up, right? I mean, I had some bad games. I had some learning experiences and cost the team some wins for sure throughout my time. But, you learn from those games and you try and just get more consistent as time goes on. And, I was able to do that.
Nice. Yeah. Sorry, so not to cut you off, but I kind of wanted to dig a little bit deeper because I was born in 1995, right? And MLS started in, I believe, like 93, 94. So you went to Wake Forest in 2002. So you grew up kind of when the MLS was growing up. You guys kind of were playing football and growing at the same time. So I kind of want to figure out, you're from the East Coast. What was the soccer scene? What was the football scene like, in grade school and high school? And then, when you're getting to that high school, college step, what was the MLS looking like? Did you even have aspirations of going straight to the MLS? Like, how was that whole ordeal? Because you guys were kind of growing at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. You guys are young. I'm the old man here. It was different back then. It was different back then. I remember when I was like 10, and you're just a little kid dreaming and MLS didn't even exist yet. And I remember thinking, as any kid does, they're dreaming that they're going to be a professional one day. And I was thinking, man, I don't know if I want to continue to play soccer because I can't play professionally here in the U.S. I'd have to go over and play somewhere else. And because I loved baseball growing up too. And I was like, oh man, maybe I should just choose baseball. And then the Revolution came around, and that was the MLS started, and the Revs were my home team. And that was when I was about 13. So started going to those games, and then, the dream, gets to be more real when you've got a team to support in a league here in the home country. So, but it was, games weren't on TV like they are now. Like even, you had Champions League on, but other than that, it was like your Saturday morning, it wasn't like a lineup full of games like it is today.
Yeah.
I was a Manchester United fan simply because there was no other team on TV, basically. It was all Man U.
There it is.
But honestly, when people ask me like who I support these days, like I don't even have a team in Europe, just because I was honestly watching more baseball than I was soccer back then, just because that was on TV. Younger generations are very fortunate because soccer's come a long way. When I was growing up, it was just mom and dad coaching. It was, if not my mom or dad, it was somebody else's mom and dad who didn't know soccer, and it's just, you just kind of got out there and just wing it, just go out there and play. We didn't learn any tactics. It was just go out there and play and have fun. And, there's something to that actually, that's probably missed a little bit, where it's, now it's so organized that you miss a little bit of that freestyle and just go out there and kick it around with the buddies.
Yeah. Nice. So then that jump to college where you get a team in your backyard, you start going to games, you're 13, 14, you're junior, senior in high school. Was college like something you knew you wanted to do when you got to high school?
It was the next step. It was not similarly. It wasn't like today where going pro out of high school was like a realistic option. There were a few guys who were doing it, but they were like, high-end national team young players. Okay. So for me, it was definitely always see if I could take the next step, and the next step for sure would have been college. So, but I went into high school like 100 pounds soaking wet. So, I had a lot of growing and maturing to do. And even when I got stepped on college, I was maybe 140 pounds, and so I was always, small frame and, had a late developer. So, but yeah, that was always the plan, to go to college and see what happened there.
So when you this is kind of crazy. So when you went to Wake Forest, your coach Jay Vidovich, he took over Pitt, and the year he took over Pitt was actually my first year in college at Cleveland State. So kind of going into college, I kind of want to know from your perspective, you won the national championship with Coach Vidovich, I believe, kind of how was he as a coach, but then also how was that transition, because you came to college, a little bit smaller, of course, and then kind of making that transition to, actually playing, and then now winning a national championship, how was he as a coach, and then how was that entire experience?
Yeah, Jay was awesome. He was a really good coach and just a really good human being as well. He cared about us. We had it was a family there at Wake. We had just a good group of dudes that we hung out with all the time, and we just enjoyed battling at practice. Like we had a good enough team where like that, first team, second team games, they were heated.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes you get on game day and you're like, oh man, this is easy. Like the second team, kicked our butts yesterday. So no, it was awesome. I learned a lot, and I'm thankful he gave me a chance, as a small young freshman, playing for a good team, to play right away. And we kept getting better and better, and we had some success there. And I'm glad that Jay's having success there at Pittsburgh too, because I know he was disappointed. He tried to go the pro route and see how it would go, and for whatever reason it didn't work out. But then he takes over Pitt and immediately brings them into the top 25, top 10. Yes, so, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either, man. I played at Cleveland State from 2016 to 2020, and So as freshman year, I'm going against Pitt, at home, and his teams are always organized. As soon as he took over, the instant impact. You kind of heard his name when he first took over. It was like, oh no, he came to Pitt. Like he's here and he's going to make a difference. And then remember, I think we played him like 2018, and oh my goodness, his team was amazing. I think they were like top 25 at that point, and then getting a red card. I got a guy a red card, and we ended up beating him. But hey, man,
there we go.
But, he's a great coach. He's a great coach. But yeah, man. So kind of going from, I guess college to now you're making that jump to the pros. Like you say, it was a tough battle, but kind of for the fans listening and just young footballers out there, like how tough really is it? What was the transition? Because you went from a very, very good program over here, and then you went to overseas, and now it's you kind of feel like you're at square one again, kind of like a freshman in college again.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a challenge because in these pro locker rooms, you want to be a team, and you have to be a team and be united in that front. But at the same time, 30-year-olds on the team don't want to lose a starting position to a 20-year-old newcomer. That's just a fact, right? I mean, these guys have families, and if they're not starting, they're not making as much money, and it's a real deal here. So the competition within the team is much different. The relationships are a little bit different, than college guys. It's just different as a 20-year-old to connect with 35-year-olds and guys going home to kids and things like that, right? It's just different. So getting used to that, and the intensity at training. I still remember like one of my first days, the passing drills, and we used to do passing drills every day, right? Some basic stuff. And these guys were absolutely crushing the ball at each other, and you're expected to, oh my God.
Popping that ball. The sound.
Pinging it.
Just pinging
it. They were. And I just remember thinking, holy smokes. Like they just, and of course, I think as a rookie, they're hitting it even harder at you, just testing you out. But that was a good wake up call. But the speed of play is just so different once you get to that level. Guys are thinking ahead. They're knowing what they're doing with the ball before it comes. Everybody's more, faster and physical. And, it's the best of the college players. So it took some adjustment period for me, for sure. But like I said earlier, I was in probably the most talented locker room in MLS. So I was very fortunate.
So you were drafted in 2005 and then won Rookie of the Year in 2005 as well. So I would say you adjusted well to the league. But then in 2008, you go to Denmark. And for me, you were one of many American players that started to go over to
Pioneer.
Europe.
Facts,
man.
Facts.
It wasn't as common. We did have some players over in Europe, but I felt like around that time was when really, Americans really started to take that chance and go overseas and see what they could make out of it. What was your experience like in Denmark? And kind of what was that adjustment like?
Yeah, another tough adjustment. I was at a point in my career where I could have stayed with the Revolution, but I just wanted to challenge myself and just see, could I make it? Can I have success over there? Will I enjoy it? And just get the experience of living over in Europe, just something different. And I'm so glad I went because it ended up being such an awesome experience. But it was tough at first. I mean, I joined mid-season. The MLS season ended the calendar year, so I joined Denmark in January. And they're on the European calendar. So it's mid-season. We're fighting relegation, which obviously I've never been through before. And as a defender, you're thinking, holy smokes, like every mistake is in the back of the net. Every goal is a lost point, and every point is so vital. And I went to Denmark, right? And it's not like, I made the jump to the Premier League or Bundesliga right away or something like that. A lot of people are like, it's a parallel step. And it probably is, right? But it was a good parallel step for me. It was a good experience, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't at the level of Bundesliga or Premier League or anything like that. I needed that time, and it was such an awesome experience because I learned so much. The current coach of the Danish national team, and anyone that's following international football knows the success that they're having as a country.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
He was my coach in Denmark at the club level, and he was so good to work under.
Wow.
He was fantastic. I learned so much as a pro under him. So just really enjoyed my time there. But it wasn't easy. You know, I didn't have success right away. I was kind of in and out of the lineup. They wanted to play me an outside back. I fought it because I was like, no, I'm a center back. It's just looking back, it was, silly of me. Because I think second year, third year there, I ended up playing right back, and it brought me back to the national team. I had a lot of success with it. That's where I played in Champions League. So, it was an awesome experience overall.
So talk a little bit about how the move to Denmark even came about, because the reason why I'm asking that is U.S. soccer did not have that much exposure during that time. So like, how did that move come about? Did they did they hear about you? Like, I want to know how the move came about.
Yeah.
Did you have like other options to maybe pick a different team? How did you settle on that team? Yeah.
I was honestly surprised at my lack of options.
Okay.
My agent was saying, you can go on trial here, you can go on trial there. And I'm like, I don't want to go on trial. I want a contract. And a former player, Heath Pierce, who played on the national team a little bit as well, he actually played at the same club in Denmark previously. He had moved on. But we shared an agent. So my agent kind of knew of this club already. And they were the only one willing to give me a contract without having to go on trial because my agent had worked with them previously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so small world within the agents, I guess.
Yeah, shout out Heath Pierce too, man.
Yeah, for sure. I ended up staying at the same apartment he lived in.
Oh wow.
He hooked it up. Definitely.
He did.
Okay, so in Denmark, you go ahead and you win the Danish Cup twice.
Win the league. As a right back.
I want to talk about that. That's what I want to talk about.
So talk about winning the Danish Cup. How does that feel like? Because that was the first time
in history, right?
And this is a legend right here we're talking to.
Yeah, it was crazy. The club I went to is a very small club. It was in a small town, and we hadn't had much success. It's a club that really develops a lot of young talent. So they play a lot of young players, and then just move them on. So they're constantly fighting relegation before I got there. But then they had a kind of a shift when they brought me in. They brought in a few other veteran guys. We had a very good team, obviously, with some younger, talented guys as well. But yeah, I don't know. We just had success in the cup. We took it real serious, and that's always a tough one, right? How do you play your starters at the early stages? It's a little difficult, especially for a small club, right? Because you have to put so much energy and focus on the league so you don't get relegated. But we just, I don't know, always found a way in the cup in 2 years in a row. I mean, we didn't lose a game in the cup. And that was,
wow.
I think that really helped us make the run that we did in the league, because it gave us the confidence as a small club to say, you know what, we can do it. It's possible. And then the run that we went on in the league, I equate it to like Leicester City's run.
Okay.
It's a small club that, had a little bit of success, but just had a magical season, right? That one magical season where everything goes right. The top guys just, keep losing points here and there. And, you just all of a sudden you pull it out on the last day of the season. And it happened to be the first time in Danish history that the winner of the league qualified automatically for the group stage.
Champions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we were the beneficiaries of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So I want to talk about that a little bit, because I actually went back and I looked at the teams in the group stage, and you guys had Shakhtar Donetsk, I think, from Ukraine, and you had Juventus in your group, and you had Chelsea. So kind of take us through that, like a Champions League match. I mean, you guys looking at guys like Hazard and Oscar and that at that moment, you know, like take us through that time.
Yeah, it was a crazy feeling because at one hand you're like so excited for the opportunity, right? This is amazing. You know, everybody dreams of it. You hear the music, you're like, can't wait. And on the other hand, you're like, holy shit, we're playing against Juve and Chelsea. Like, there's a legit chance we might lose 10-0 here and embarrass ourselves, right? Because it's such a small club. You know, and we started off with Shakhtar away. And, you know, Shakhtar is such a big club. They had so many Brazilians on their team. It's such a good team. And we lost that first game 2-0 away. But we played really well. You know, and I was playing right back against Willian, you know, so it was like straight into the fire playing against Willian. Yeah, but I mean, it's just everything you dreamed of, like, you know, hearing the music and the chills and the team playing really well, even though we lost. And the home games, I mean, I'll never forget those games. They were just so awesome. And what an experience, even though we only took 1 point. I mean, I think it was the group of death because those three teams are so good.
Yeah, we got booted to Europa that year.
Yeah.
Like away goals or something.
After
we won the Champions League the year before. So I was like, what's going on?
That's when Pogba started balling for Juve. I mean, yeah. That's when Pogba went crazy. Yeah.
They smacked us at Juve. We lost 4-0. At Chelsea, we lost 4-0 too. But at Juve, I mean, it could have been 7.
Okay. So from Augsburg, you go to Columbus, and so in 2014, I believe.
Yep.
You guys, Mike, I was pumped when
he was your hype man.
When they said Michael Parkhurst has a chance to come to Columbus. I was like, yo, this is gonna be crazy. Just a player of your caliber to be on our back line. And I mean, at that point in time, like we did need help defensively. So yeah, man, it was really cool to see you in the black and gold and talk about your time in Columbus and like what that was like.
Yeah, it was crazy. I moved here knowing nobody. It was like, you know, the crew at the time, you know, Chad Marshall was like the only one that I kind of knew, and he got shipped out as soon as I got in. So I like showed up on day one. I'm like, who are all these guys? I don't even know anybody here. But we fell in love with Columbus. Like off the field, my family and I fell in love with it. That's why we came back, and that's where we live today. You know, so we love it here. But on the field, you know, working with Greg was awesome. He was such a good coach, so tactically solid. We had such a good style of play, and he built a good roster, and that's why we had 2 really good seasons under him. And I loved playing under him. I loved the style of play. It fit me really well, playing out of the back, my strengths. You know, and so I really, really enjoyed my time. I mean, that cup loss in 15, 16,
tough.
15. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the toughest games I've ever played in, just as far as emotionally. It's so up for the game and just such a killer, obviously, start to the game, especially in front of a crowd that was one of the best I've played in front of in my career. But, you know, and I wanted to finish my career here in Columbus. That's, you know, we settled down. We totally expected that I would play here until my career ended. And then, you know, Greg and I just didn't see eye to eye on my value and the future. So that's why I kind of moved on. And I was really, really upset at the time. You know, I didn't speak with Greg for a while because of it. And then, I mean, personally, it turned out to be a blessing. But, you know, I really, really enjoyed my time here in Columbus.
What's your favorite spot in Columbus?
Yeah, we're all Ohio boys. Gabriel and I live in Cleveland, but we frequent Columbus a lot.
Nice. Yeah, I live up in Westerville, and honestly, I don't get downtown too often. Our spot is North Star. Any North Star, doesn't matter. That restaurant is our favorite. But yeah, by the time I was in Columbus, I had kids and wasn't getting out too much. So
So go ahead, Mike.
Talk about leaving Columbus after the MLS Cup loss, and then getting to play the same team once again in the final. How did that feel? And winning this time?
Yeah,
baby.
it was deja vu, right? I mean, it was so similar, right? With Columbus, it was a home game. We were by far the favorite, and we were playing against Portland. And Atlanta was the same thing. We were the big time favorites, playing at home, playing against Portland. And so for me, it was like, oh my gosh, not again, please. No, like, I think looking back, we were so confident in Columbus going into that game, like so confident. I don't think any of us ever thought that we'd lose that game. And
Fans
so,
too, bro. Fans too. Looking, I thought it was in the bag. I was so excited.
And I don't know if that was a detriment to us. I don't know if maybe that's the reason why, we gave up those 2 early goals. I don't know. But, for me in Atlanta, I was, made sure that I was like, do not take this for granted. You never know on the day what can happen. That was my fear going into the game. But, if it helped that we've got the 2 best players in the league at the time, and Joseph and Miguel Almiron. But I mean, that crowd that day, like 71,000 or whatever it was, that was the best atmosphere I've ever played in my life.
Electric.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
That Atlanta team though, man, was something, because I remember that whole year. It was a friend of ours. His name is AB. Shout out AB Abia. But I was telling AB, like, man, this Atlanta squad is different, man. Like, they had, I mean, first of all, you guys had a world-class coach, and was it Tata Martino? And the way that he had you guys playing, and then like you said, I mean, Joseph Martinez, Miguel Almiron, which Miguel Almiron had quite the game
this past weekend.
Right. But Brad Guzan in goal, you were on the back line. Darlington Nagbe was on that team as well too.
Yeah.
Man,
shout out another Ohio boy.
Liberian boy.
You guys had a squad, and Miles Robinson was on that team too. Yeah, Miles Robinson was on that team. I mean, you guys had a crazy squad, and it was really cool to see, like, a newly promoted side, an expansion team like Atlanta, to win the MLS Cup. So
for sure. No, it was crazy. My time under Tata was insane, because I mean, I was with him when I was like 32 or something like that. So I had seen a lot, but I had never played the way that he had us playing in my career. It was unbelievable. Like, we would just be pressing everywhere. I'd be at the halfway line, standing one-on-one with the striker, with nobody within like 30 yards of me, thinking, holy smokes. It's just so crazy how we played. But I mean, it was exciting, right? We scored tons of goals. And we just got after teams. But the roster was built well, right? We had a ton of speed, and we just put teams under pressure. But yeah, it was something different I had never experienced, just a new style of play. So that was cool for me, just being an older guy. Like, you think you know everything or seen everything, and then it's like, holy wow, there's a whole different way to play this game.
Yeah, kind of talking about styles of football. I mean, over your career, you've played against pretty much every style, playing the Champions League, Juve, Serie A, they play differently, in the EPL, they play differently, in the MLS, they play differently. So, looking at, so many different styles that you've played against, in your opinion, what's kind of the hardest style that you have played against, as a pro?
That's a good question. Like, the style that the Red Bulls play is probably the most difficult, I think, to play against, where they're just full out press for the entire game. And they're ruthless with it. So much so where, we here in Columbus, when we went into that game in the semifinals against them, to get to the cup, we said, okay, we're not going to play out of the back. Like, forget it. Just stick the ball along to Kai Kamara up there, and we'll play up there, because it's like, that style of play, you might play through it 8 times perfectly, but that 1 or 2 times you don't, they're winning it. They're winning it 25, 30 yards from your goal, and they're getting straight down your throat. So it was like, it's not worth it. So that's very difficult. But it's on the backside, like on the flip side, it's an extremely challenging way to play for them, right? They exert so much energy, put so much into it, and they have to be all together on their press. Otherwise, it just fails. But then again, I played against Juventus, and it's like they are so difficult to break down, right? They allow you to have the ball, right? Sit back. Yeah. And it was just like that. You think that you've got a little bit of the ball, and then, you know, all of a sudden they have a cue or something, and they're just so organized, and all of a sudden they're swarming, they're on top of you, and they're just impossible to break down. So just two completely different styles of play, but equally difficult to play against.
So
that's what makes it the beautiful game, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So before I just have like a couple of just like little sprays, but playing against that like Chelsea, you know, like were those boys as rough as they say they are? Because I mean, we watch EPL every week, and I mean,
and this was the heyday of Chelsea. This is when we were Jose Ball.
Yeah, when people ask me like who's the toughest person you ever played against, I usually say it was Fernando Torres. And
wow. Really?
I played outside back every game in the Champions League except the one game at Chelsea. Our center back got hurt in warm up, so I had to play center back, and Torres started up top. That guy was a beast. Oh my God. So fast, so strong, and so smart. So yeah, he was a nightmare to play against, but like those guys are just built differently. Like when you stand there against Lampard and you're thinking like, oh, Lampard's not that big. And then you get up next to him, he's like 6'1", looks like he's 190 pounds. And you're like, holy smokes. Like, these EPL guys are just built different.
Solid. Wow.
That's crazy to think about. Yeah, especially as a defender. Somebody might look deceptively small on TV, then you're up against them. And you're like, okay.
You know what's funny to me? He said Torres, and
exactly.
You know, most people would be like, "Oh, Torres at Chelsea, you know, it was a flop." Which you know, we can all agree to disagree. But
we talked about that the other day. We talked about his time at Chelsea. So that's what makes it so funny that you brought up him.
Yeah,
yeah. But
I guess I'm thankful Didier Drogba wasn't there.
For sure. Well, I mean, you also play with the national league team as well too. You won the Gold Cup in 2007 and 2013. To me, both of those teams were very different. Just in terms of just like the way that you guys, well, I mean, the personnel was different. The way that you guys played was different. What do you think was the biggest difference between those two teams? And if you were to, I guess, give a slight nod to which team was kind of, better. Without necessarily saying the squad was definitely better. We're all American here, you know what I'm saying? So I got love for everybody. It ain't like that.
No, the 2007 team was a real veteran team. Yeah. I only played 2 group stage games, and then I didn't even dress for the rest of the games. It was a lot of veteran guys. Which was awesome. That was my first time with the national team. That was my first cap, came in that tournament in my first couple games. So that was a cool experience for me. And I still remember Benny Feilhaber's volley against Mexico. I think that was in the semifinal. Or maybe that was the final. I'm not sure. But yeah. And then 2013, I played every game, or almost every game. And that was like the kind of the B team, if you will, for the national team, because that was on the heels of like a few World Cup qualifying games in the summer. So the US sent basically their B team, which was cool for me because I got to play. But we had an awesome, that was, when I look back at my career, that was one of the funnest tournaments I've ever played in, because there was no real egos on the team. We all knew kind of we were the B squad. We were fine with that. And, you know, we were just out there having a friggin' blast with each other. And I mean, we played well and enjoyed it. But if those two teams were playing against each other, I'm sure the first team probably would have beat us.
Yeah, I like how the second team, the 2013. I feel like you guys had something to prove compared to that first team, and I like seeing you guys, play with that chip on your shoulder, and ultimately to get rewarded with the prizes. That's everything. So
Definitely.
Kind of goes back what you were saying earlier. You guys had that chip on your shoulder, but it was a little more free. I feel like in the way you guys were playing, you guys knew you were the B side, so you say, and so there were less egos, but it looked like you guys played a lot more free versus that 2017. I feel there's like a little bit more pressure maybe because that team was expected to do a little bit better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just being even a younger guy, I was looking at the two teams, and 2013, I'm a senior in high school, so I'm watching you guys play, and it just looked a lot more loose, a lot more fun out there.
Yeah, I'd say you're right, and I'd say the analysis is probably right as far as we had nothing to lose, right? We were all trying to prove ourselves and trying to get to the first team, and just enjoying ourselves out there. Where those guys, and because of that, I think we were expected to win still, just because we were U.S. Playing in the Gold Cup, you expect to win. But that 17 team, I mean, they definitely were expected to win, and there was a lot of pressure in that tournament. Jurgen was there, right? I mean, he was under a lot of pressure. So there was just a lot going on at that time. And when a lot goes on, I mean, that pressure, you tighten up a little bit, and that's when the cream rises, and some guys weren't able to do that. But yeah, no, we enjoyed our time because, like I said, there wasn't as much pressure on us.
Yeah. Okay. So, kind of as we wrap up, I know we kind of talked about your entire career, and I just kind of want to, I guess, kind of my final question is, coming from the U.S., of course, growing up here, and then you go overseas, you go play in Denmark, and then you kind of come back to the U.S. and you have success in Denmark, but you also have a lot of success in the U.S. So, did you feel like coming, as you said, starting from, college and then going to the pros was a big jump. When you came back from, overseas and coming back to the MLS, did you feel like you had a little bit of an advantage in the MLS and when you came back?
Yes, I did. I felt like I had experienced a little bit more, and I had played a bunch of national team games at that point, and I came into a crew team that was young. And, I think that, over there, and just every point seemed to matter more. Every tackle seemed to matter more in the games. And, I tried to bring that intensity to training and to games and tell these guys, like, hey, every play matters within the game, and every tackle and every run, and, just trying to bring that attitude, but also enjoy it, right? And not, like, you only got one career here, like, play with a smile on your face, like the old school Brazilians, and enjoy it rather than just, soccer players, as you guys know, have a tendency to just complain all the time about anything and everything. And so I always try to, stay on the bright side, as difficult as that was sometimes. But no, I tried to use that experience, when I came back and influenced the locker room a little bit.
So with the World Cup coming up, my question for you is, who do you think is the best U.S. international player right now?
Oh, that's a good one. Thankfully, it's a tough question.
Yeah,
honestly,
right?
I still think Pulisic is the most talented. He's just in a terrible situation right now. And hopefully he gets a solution here in the next couple of weeks. Because I don't think it's ideal for him to stay at Chelsea leading up to the World Cup. But I think obviously the Leeds guys are on fire. Those two guys are critical to the U.S.'s team success, especially Adams, but Aronson as well. Those guys are really good players, and they're hungry, and they're proving themselves well, which is awesome to see. But I will say that I think Pulisic is the most talented player.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say you can ask Cornelius and Mike if they know Tyler Adams
hey,
and Brandon Aronson.
You know,
yeah, because they
put that press on Mendy. When we talk about the press, that press on Mendy.
Yeah,
with I'm not gonna lie, I was skeptical of Aronson, but his first 3 games he's looked great.
Bro, ain't nothing to be skeptical.
He's looked great. He's looked absolutely great.
I'm sold
on him too. I really am.
I agree. I wasn't sure either. You know, he's so slate framed. You think, man, how is he going to play as a winger in the EPL against these physical outside backs? But man, he is doing it.
He's a pest too. He's
physical. He's a
perfect
workhorse. Just keeps running. He does not stop running. It's crazy.
He's perfect under Jesse Marsch, and those guys are, you know, I mean, they're great players. Don't get me wrong, but it's a little bit of a benefit to have the U.S. coach as well, right? Where you automatically don't have to deal with the stigma of, like, you know, an English coach, like just you know, pissing on an American just because he's an American, you know. So, you know, but I mean, credit to them for taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I think Jesse Marsch, he has a good thing going on Leeds. I think they're fully bought into whatever he's telling them over there. And I mean, Saturday, I was telling one of my friends, I was upset only because I just felt like we were outplayed. We were just completely outplayed on Saturday. And I can't be upset about it too much because, I mean, the two, you know, bright spots were U.S. players. So hopefully we see it in the World Cup, you know, hopefully we see it in the World Cup. But how far do you think they're going to go in the World Cup?
I mean, I think we got a good group, right? I mean, that's about the best group you could have asked for in a World Cup. So it gives us a good chance to get out of the group. You know, even England, I think, you know, as talented as they are, they're definitely beatable. So it's a great group.
John Green.
Hopefully they play Harry Maguire.
Oh
yeah. No, I mean, I like our chances to, you know, progress. I mean, we're the youngest team, right, and by far at the World Cup. So, you know, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you know, hopefully we get out of the group, get into some knockout rounds, you know, maybe make a quarterfinal, semifinal, and use that experience to then bring almost the same team back in 4 more years and build on that. But you know, I would love to at least get to the quarterfinals. That would be amazing for soccer in this country to get it back up there on that stage and get that respect.
Yeah, man. So, lastly, I just one final question, unless you guys got other questions, but you know, looking back at like your journey from where you started, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but how do you see the game now, and how do you see the growth of like American soccer, the league? Because I mean, like it's different from your perspective, it's different from our perspective as fans, and obviously, you know, like I coach youth soccer now, and it's funny, like I ask some of these kids about who they watch, and everyone's so crazy about like Man City, for example, where like back then, like no one was really a Man City fan, you know, and it's just like it's interesting to see, like, as time goes on, obviously, you know, football changes, but for you as a professional, as a former player, and I believe you're involved in the USL in some capacity as well too. I'm helping bring a team to Rhode Island, the USL championship team. So they kick off in 2024. So yeah, that's an exciting project.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes. But I think it's the biggest difference for me is the youth systems, right? We're developing players at a younger age. They're getting better coaching. Like I said, I mean, I was half joking, but you know, when I was growing up, it was a bunch of moms and dads that didn't know anything about soccer, right? And now you don't have to be in an MLS academy to get good coaching, right? You guys are coaching. You guys grew up in the game. You know how to play the game and how to coach the game, right? We didn't have those types of people back when I was growing up. And so I think a lot of our youth are getting better coaching. They're getting better opportunities. And that's what's leading to, you know, these guys growing up, you know, and we're developing pros at a younger age, catching up to Europe in that regard. And the academies that the MLS teams do have are incredible. I mean, the facilities and, you know, the games that they're playing are higher level games. You know, there's so much more pressure on these kids. I do some mentoring because, you know, there's so much more pressure on these 12, 13, 14-year-old kids than there were when I was growing up, right? They've got these competition to stay in these academies, and they really feel that competition, and a lot of that is great. Some of it can be unhealthy for the young kids, but most of it is good, and it helps them grow and develop quicker. So for me, that's the biggest change that I've seen.
Okay. Cool, man.
One more question. I know earlier you said Manchester United was one of your favorite, teams growing up. Do you have a favorite European team right now?
Honestly, I don't. I think that even though I grew up a Man United fan, I'll say that when I turned pro, I played for Stevie Nicol. And Stevie Nicol is a Liverpool legend.
Yeah.
And so we always watched Liverpool, and my roommate at the time was a huge Liverpool fan. So he kind of brought me onto Liverpool. So now I enjoy watching Liverpool play and follow them, but I'm not a big supporter of any particular team, even though I watch more European soccer now than I ever did. I just like to watch the Americans or just the good games. And, like today, I wasn't really rooting for anybody, just watching the game to enjoy it. So, yeah, no, as crazy as that sounds, not really. I mean, I went through a time where I was supporting Tottenham just because Robbie Keane was there, and I loved Robbie Keane. He's Irish, and I'm Irish. So it's like I've kind of bounced around a little bit. No loyalty to anybody.
Okay.
And then I just have one last quick question. You've played all over, so I want to know your favorite experience, like your favorite atmosphere. It could be home or away, and then the most hostile environment or more hostile atmosphere.
Yeah, my favorite experience was the Olympics. Just the whole vibe of being there. It was awesome. What an experience that was. And definitely the most hostile environment was away to Costa Rica for a World Cup qualifier. It was the loudest place I've ever been, and just wild. Absolutely wild. It was nuts. You couldn't hear the guy next to you. I was on the bench. I didn't even play. You couldn't even talk to the guy next to you on the bench. It was so loud. It was incredible.
Nice.
Wow. Nice, man.
Yeah. All right. I got to run here. Baseball practice is wrapping up here, guys. But
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys having me on. It was good to speak with you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah. Thank you again, Michael.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem at all. Good luck to the crew here down the stretch. Hopefully they can do something special again this year.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that Rhode Island team, man. I'm going to keep my head up for 2024.
Yeah, man. Good luck to you.
Right.
Nice. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, fellas.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, man.